Hey everybody, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. It's Kyle the Lawn Mentor here. Today we're going to take a look at all of the different products that we have put on my lawn this past year, and we're going to look at the costs of them and talk about how much money was really spent on the lawn. As you go throughout the season and you buy different products that you need, you might not realize how much money you're actually spending on things, and I think it's good to reflect and go back and look at what we actually put on the lawn, and for our plans going forward, make decisions about if we're going to use those products again, if we had any success with them, if they were products that we think were worth the money or not. I want to just take you along today on some recent analysis that I did with my lawn program, taking a look back at everything that I put on the lawn in 2021 and totaling up really how much money was spent on my lawn in 2021 from a products on the ground perspective. There's a lot of different conclusions that can be pulled from the data that I've put together today. Some of it might be shocking, and I can tell you what, when I looked over the numbers, I was pretty shocked myself. Let's dive in and take a look at how much money I spent on my lawn over the past year. First of all, I want to start this video off as we dive in here and say that I was happy with the way that my lawn looked in 2021 for the most part. We suffered with some disease. I thought I personally suffered with some insect damage in specific spots, but it was a really weird year. We had a lot of fungus issues being dealt with across the entire United States. Other lawn tubers in Michigan that I've talked to, all the way to Southern California, dealt with fungus issues this year. So being able to deal with that was an increased cost this year, and you'll see that reflected in the dollars spent here. Some of these products I'll talk about here were actually sent to me for free, though it were not that many of them. I paid for the majority of my lawn program over 2021. This is not in any way a knock on any of these products saying that they're too expensive or anything like that. This is simply just an objective view of the money that was spent on my lawn during 2021. And overall, I can say that my lawn was green in 2021. My lawn got compliments in 2021. And so none of this is intended to be a smack on other products, talking smack about other products, saying they're way overpriced or anything like that. So let's dig into some of the numbers here. In terms of what kind of lawn space I was dealing with, I have a main stage section that's about 4,500 square feet that I treated this year. It did not have an overseed this year. It was basically just a gain and maintain kind of situation for the year. And then I had Project Spoon Juice, which was a 550 square foot section of lawn that's in between my driveway, which was overseeded this year with GCI Turf Type Tall Fescue. And we used basically exclusively the Yard Mastery Spoon Juice on that section of the lawn this year. And again, that was sponsored by Yard Mastery. They did provide the spoon juice jug that I used for that entire year, but it got me through the whole entire year because it was only 550 square feet. So it wasn't like they sent me hundreds of dollars in spoon juice. Okay, so I went ahead and created a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and I'll throw it up here on the screen now and just talk about some of the details of this. So first of all, I've split this into a couple different sections based on the types of products that I bought last year. I spread it up into fertilizers, I spread it up into weed controls, insecticides, fungicides, soil testing was another cost, and seed overall. So I went ahead and highlighted the stuff here that was sent to me for free. I worked with Yard Mastery last year, and they did send me a bag of their Double Dark fertilizer, and they did supply the spoon juice jug that I used on my Project Spoon Juice section. Those were really the only things that I received for free last year. All of this other stuff I purchased with my own money. So if we just want to focus on the fertilizer aspect right now, and talk about the fertilizers that I used last year. I purchased the n-ext biostimulant pack. I did use the Yard Mastery flagship stress blend. I purchased Flora Green and used that to fertilize my 9 bark. I purchased an extra jug of microgreen because I was actually making what I call green juice cocktails, and in between my fertilizer applications I was mixing equal parts of spoon juice and microgreen to try to get some extra fertilizer app in between there with more iron in it and some micros and not a huge high amount of nitrogen to push a surge of growth. Oftentimes in between my monthly fertilizer applications with my major NPK apps, I was throwing down some microgreen and spoon juice together just to help to try to keep the color in between my fertilizer applications. On top of that, like I said, I did use spoon juice. I purchased my own jug of spoon juice to use on my main stage section of the lawn, and Yard Mastery again did supply me another jug of spoon juice, which I use exclusively on Project Spoon Juice, which is a section that's about 550 square feet in between my driveway. The next thing that's on the list here is Yard Mastery Sulfate of Potash. So I did purchase a bag of sulfate of potash from Yard Mastery because I had really deficient K levels in my lawn. The Yard Mastery Double Dark was another fertilizer that was provided to me for free to do a comparison against Ironite, but I purchased the Ironite. And I made an Ironite application in the spring, and then when I did my Halloween video to compare Double Dark against Ironite, I purchased the Ironite for that video, so that's why that's not highlighted. When it came to overseeding, I also had Yard Mastery Starter Fert was my starter fert of choice, and so I used that as a starter fert application at the time of overseeding on Project Spoon Juice, but I also used it as a fall fertilizer because my phosphorus levels were just barely in the acceptable range this year. So I did use starter fert only at the end of the year because the rest of the fertilizer applications that I made on a monthly basis didn't have any phosphorus in them. In terms of weed control, there was really only 2 products that I used for weed control this year. I didn't have a lot of weed pressure that I was dealing with. I used a post-emergent Ortho Weed Be Gone, which is mainly a triclopyr concentrate. I had a lot of clover, and I always get wild violet and dandelions in my lawn, and triclopyr seems to do the trick for just about all of the broadleaf weeds that I deal with in my lawn. So 1 bottle of concentrate of that product was really all I needed to get me through the season. I don't think I only did like 2 applications. And then for a pre-emergent on the section of lawn, my main stage that I did not overseed, I used prodiamine water dispersible granular, and the total is right there. In terms of insecticides down here, I did apply a couple different insecticides throughout the year. I did a 24-hour grub killer plus. I did find some grubs in one section of my lawn, so I went ahead and did a kill application of grub killer to go ahead and take care of those. And then I also later on in the season had more evidence of what I thought could be insect damage, so I applied Ortho Bug Be Gone also to the lawn this year. Fungicides was one area of the lawn game this year that we got hit really hard, and it shows. You'll see here I spent a total of $176.10 just on fungicides, and I had to use several different classes of fungicides because I didn't want to produce fungus that were resistant to the classes of fungicide that I was using. So there was basically 4 products that we went ahead and used this year. From DoMyOwn.com, I went ahead and purchased Cleary's 333-6F. I purchased propiconazole from Yard Mastery. I also purchased Scott's Disease X from Home Depot, which has azoxystrobin in it. And then I also used BioAdvance Fungus Control as a supplementary fungus control, which is also a propiconazole product. So between rotating between those 3 different classes, I was able to kind of take care of the fungus problems that I was dealing with this year. Soil testing is another thing that you can anticipate when you're trying to improve your lawn doing every year, at least once a year. I like to do mine in the spring, and so I purchased the Yard Mastery soil test kit this past year that came with the miniature soil probe. So the soil probe made it really easy to extract the soil and get it out of the ground so that I could send it off for soil testing, and that was $59.99. And then I did purchase GCI Turf Type Tall Fescue seed for my overseeding project this year. That exclusively went on Project Spoon Juice. So that's kind of the lay of the land in terms of all of the products that I put down on the ground or used to determine what I needed to put down on the ground. One thing I want to point out is that this doesn't really encompass any new equipment that I purchased through the year. I did purchase a leaf blower, I purchased a string trimmer, and I did purchase my Ryobi backpack sprayer this year. So those are some other costs, but those are things that are not recurring costs, because usually once you buy a piece of equipment like that, you don't have to purchase it all over again every year. Those were things that were not included in this cost analysis. One other interesting thing about this analysis that I did here was the fact that the ticket price of these products does not necessarily mean, in my mind, that that's how much I spent, because you could buy 1,000 pounds of fertilizer, but if you don't put all 1,000 pounds of fertilizer down on the ground, you can use that again next year. So some of these products I didn't completely exhaust throughout the year. I didn't use them up all the way. I still have some of it left over, and so I went ahead and included the upfront cost here, which is really the ticket price, what I had to actually go to the vendor which I bought it from and purchase. And then on top of that, I created a column here called portion used multiplier. And this basically says how much of the product did I actually use this year? Do I have any left over? So for instance, for the biostim pack, I didn't completely use all 4 products in the entire biostimulant pack. I still have about a quarter left in each jug. So I have a 0.75 multiplier here because I only used about 75% of the product that comes in that pack. And so dollars spent on application is really the product of the portion used multiplier and the ticket price. In other words, how much cash out of my pocket did I really put into the soil to get my lawn to the point of where it's at? So some of the interesting ones were the fact that I didn't entirely use the whole jug of Flora Green that I bought. I was exclusively using that on my 9-bark, and those were small spoon-fed applications, so I didn't completely use that jug. I didn't use up the entire jug of microgreen that I had bought separately. I definitely did not use up the Yard Mastery Double Dark. And so there's some other conclusions here that you can make looking at this data to see that though I had to fork out the money up front to buy these all from the vendor, doesn't necessarily mean that that was spent on the cost of the application. And that's what I particularly care about. One thing that is a big cost was my seed that I chose for the year. Now, I purchased the 45-pound bag of GCI Turf Type Tall Fescue. That was around $160, but if you go back and look at my overseeding video, I did not apply the whole entire bag. I didn't even use near that much. I only used about 3.5 pounds of that 45-pound bag, so that works out to be this percentage here. So really, I only threw down $12.45 worth of seed on Project Spoon Juice. So after some Excel magic here, you can basically see that when it comes to the applications that I actually made, what would it cost somebody to actually make all the fertilizer applications? Around $345. Likewise for weed control, around $28, around $39 of insecticides, a big cost of about $166 worth of fungicides, $60 for soil testing, and then, like I said, only about $12.44 worth of seed. I did mention that I got the Yard Mastery Double Dark sent to me for free and 1 jug of spoon juice, so if you want to go ahead and just tally off about $55 worth of fert that was sent to me for free, you could subtract that on the side too, but we'll include it so we can talk about how much it would probably have costed you to make the same applications that I did last year if you would have followed some kind of program that resembled mine for some reason. So if I scroll over to the side here, the big numbers are these right here. So the upfront grand total for all of those products that I had to buy before I actually factored in how much went on the ground and how much I was paying per application was just over $1,050, and that is shocking to me. When it comes to the actual applications that I made, how much I actually put down on the ground, that's closer to $650. I still have a bunch of SOP left over from this year. I still have some biostimulants left over. Definitely have a ton of seed left over. Really, in reality, in terms of products I put down on the ground from April through October, that's about $650. So we can talk about that from a monthly perspective too. April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So we have about 7 months worth of applications there. And if we want to talk about 7 months of apps and we want to take our total of money that we spent on those applications and divide it by 7, we're looking at about $92.66 per month is what I was applying onto my lawn. So basically that would be a biostimulant application. You know, usually I was taking honestly all of the biostims and I was putting them in a tank and mixing them and spreading them on the lawn about once a month. I was putting an application of the Yard Mastery fertilizers on my lawn, whether it was appropriate time for flagship or stress blend, or like I said, I put down starter fert towards the end of the year. If you go ahead and average out all of the stuff that was basically put on the lawn, you're looking at, from what I spent, about $93 a month. Now, I don't know how much people spend on lawn care services. Some people I know, they take care of the mowing of their lawns, but they hire out the fertilizing and the insect control and the fungus control and stuff like that. So just an interesting number to look at, about $93. And I would be interested down in the comments if you are somebody who hires out a portion of your lawn care routine. I'd be interested if you're willing to share how much you're spending and what kind of services you're getting. So leave something down in the comments for me so we can take a look at the numbers and compare them. That's how much I spent personally, on the lawn. So obviously this math isn't exactly perfect when, take into account the $55 or whatever of free stuff that I got. That's fine. But maybe our monthly rate would be a little lower. Maybe it'd be $90 or a little cheaper. That's not really what this is about. It's not about how much money I spent or anything. It's more so to get an idea of what does it cost when we use these kinds of products. What does it cost for following a typical lawn care routine like the one that I've been following? I think this is just really eye-opening, something to take a look at, something interesting to discuss. I want to know what your thoughts are too. Do you think this is a lot of money? Do you think this is way too much? Do you think it's just spot on with what you thought you would spend? How much money did you spend? I'm really interested in learning about what other people's routines are. And going forward, this is going to be something that influences the types of products that I put onto my lawn. I want to talk in the future with you guys about some different alternative products maybe that we can use and see if we can get similar results. I think my theme for 2022 is going to be trying to do more or as good as we have been with stuff that's cheaper maybe different alternative products that can get us better or the same results. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for what the next year is going to look like. I definitely want to talk about some of the products I'm planning on using next year in a different video. If you're not subscribed, you might want to subscribe for that. So thanks for tuning in. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this kind of look under the hood. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the next one.